was just drinking a Truly while I was waiting for you. No big deal.
All right, that's a good way to start the podcast off.
Still drinking one.
There we go. Deb's preparing for the episode tonight with um, some truly, a truly. So I was gonna say something different, but I couldn't think of anything.
I drank too much caffeine today, so I have to offset it somehow.
Oh, there we go.
Alcohol brings it down. One time I drank way too many Red Bulls before one of my soccer games. And after my game was over, my heart was like, I thought it was going to explode. And I was telling my friend, I'm like, my heart is beating way too fast. And she had a beer because she was watching the game because I sell
Yeah,
beers I know where I play.
yeah,
She was like, drink this. And so I chugged a little bit of it, and literally 10 minutes, I was like, I feel better.
that
She's
was
like,
it, huh?
yeah, because you need to which is alcohol is a stimulant. No, alcohol is a depressant. That's why.
A
Okay, sorry.
depressant. Okay.
Yeah, right.
How many?
I think.
Because you said way too many Red Bulls. What does that mean? How many?
I think I drank two before my game. Like
Okay,
just
yeah,
the small ones. But yeah, for me, that's a lot because I normally have 2 cups of coffee in the morning and that's it. And maybe one Starbucks in the afternoon, like a small one, maybe. And
right.
this like, in the evening. And I just chugged 2 Red Bulls. I don't know why. I'm not sure what possessed me to do that when I normally don't do that. I think I just liked the
That's funny.
flavor and I
Yeah,
was really fancy for some reason. I don't know. So I drank two, played, and then I thought my heart was going to explode. So I drank a beer and it was all better. So
yeah, I
hence
bet.
we're drinking a Truly right now. I had too much caffeine today.
There you go. Makes sense. No judgment here. But like I said, that's right when we right when we press record, that was the first statement to kick off the episode. So there we go.
Welcome.
We like to mix it up every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Uh how's it going, Deb? Besides,
Good.
needing to
Sorry.
come down from the caffeine high. Everything good?
Hi, everything's great. I was just showing you my pumpkin back there. Halloween's around the corner. That's
Yeah, very,
my
very
only.
teal.
Yeah, I found
Uh,
it at Marshall's last week.
Okay, very nice. Yeah, I it's funny. So after this comes out, this should be the episode before our Halloween episode, which will be a lot of fun.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, you and I are gonna record in person for that one again. Get dressed up for Halloween, which will be fun, and or maybe people are like these people. Yeah, they thought this would be funny. Maybe it's not. I don't know, but we're gonna do it anyways because we it gives us enjoyment. And yeah, but that being said, well, we can talk more about this on that episode. But I'm actually not the biggest Halloween fan. Like, it really doesn't do much for me. Like, I know some people that love it.
Yeah.
It's not really a huge deal. I don't mind it. It's just not, it doesn't do a whole lot for me.
Yeah, I like little doses of it. Like I love watching Hocus Pocus. I think that's classic. I just watched Hocus Pocus 2
I was gonna say,
on Disney Plus. It was really good. At first it was kind of like, this is too, this is very Gen Z-ish, like the
sure,
newer shows. But then the ending was good, and I love that they had the original characters.
yeah,
I love all those people, especially Sarah Jessica Parker. So I
hmm
love that they used them. The ending was pretty good. It was satisfying. It was just good. So
okay,
it was cheesy, corny, just like the first one. So I thought it was good. So I like it in dote. Like I'll watch some. I'm not into the horror movies. Like I don't even like watching those on a regular basis. But
yeah.
I
I'm
like
not
just
into it.
no, I'm not into it. And like I said, that's my only Halloween decoration. I don't decorate. I just like the fall theme, and I like going to my friends' houses who they're into it and they're decorated and it's all festive, and then I go home and then I come back to my apartment with my teal pumpkin, and that's it. And so I'm
There you
cool.
go.
Well off of I just yeah. So I'm not a huge fan, but I don't hate it. Like
Yeah,
it
it's
between
like I said, I definitely have more to say, but I'm gonna save my thoughts for the actual Halloween episode. So if you guys want to hear that, tune in next week when we actually do our Halloween episode. It's gonna be a fun time.
fun.
Yeah,
Your your shirt's orange, so it's kind of Halloweenish. I don't know
it's
why.
very orange. I know it was not my intention, but it just happened to be what I was wearing this time. Um,
That's okay.
yeah, but no, yeah, it's yeah, no, I'm with you. It is interesting. Now, it was Hocus Pocus. Now, when you go back and watch the first one,
Mhm.
is it because sometimes there are those movies that we love when we were younger, and then
Mhm.
some of them it's like, oh man, I love this just as much as I did when I was younger, and then some of them it's like, all right, this one hasn't aged very well. You feel like it's do you still love it as much as you did when you were younger?
Well, I haven't watched the original in a while. Like
Oh,
I
okay.
just jumped right into Hocus Pocus too. Uh,
Gotcha.
but I imagine that I would still like it because I remember, if I were to watch it right now, I don't think there's anything I'd be like, oh, I don't remember that part, you know?
Yeah, sure,
So
sure.
I haven't watched it in a while, but I don't know, it's classic. It's kind of nostalgic, like it'll bring me back to the
Right.
time like when I was younger, so I probably won't think anything different of it. So
Yeah. I'm the same way. There's definitely movies and TV shows that I don't care what you say. I don't care how dumb or silly you think it is. It does take me back to that place when I was younger, and I love it. I don't care what you say. I don't care what the critics say. I love it too much to be taken down by anybody that thinks differently. So, um, but yeah, no. Anyways, like I said, yeah, definitely seen a lot more Halloween stuff, and like I said, it's just kind of like okay, cool, not a big deal for me. I like Christmas a lot more for sure. Love the
mm,
Christmas season. So,
nice.
um, which is funny because as much as I love summer, I love Christmas. That's like the one thing I really do enjoy about the winter. The rest of it, I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Nice.
I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I just like the fall in general, just because all of the things like again, not that I love Halloween, but there's Halloween and then Thanksgiving and then Christmas. So I feel like all the festivities are all like within a few months of each other.
Right.
And I think once January hits and New Year's is over, I'm like, oh my God. And then I think about, oh my God, okay, I'm almost done with work, half a year to go. And then kids start getting antsy. So, which is a nice segue into our little topic here.
Yeah.
Learning
Absolutely. So
workplace.
uh, I don't know why for a second I had to check to make sure I recorded. I don't know why. I'm like, did I actually record? That'd be terrible.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Because I started talking about my Truly.
It threw me off a little bit. It was a good intro, but it threw me off a little bit. Um,
I normally don't start the intros. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
no, it's okay. I will say this. I don't think we talked about this yet because I don't think we've. Yeah, you and I haven't podcasted together since this happened, but I had a pretty cool opportunity to speak at a career day at Bella Vista High School, um, which was cool. Our friend Alexis Smith reached out and said, "Hey, I have a friend who teaches at BV, and they're doing a career day." And I mentioned your name as someone who might want to come and talk about podcasting. I'm like, "Oh," like at first, I'm like, "That would be awesome." Like I'm super flattered. And then I said, "But you realize I don't get paid or make any money doing this. Like, I don't know if it's like I don't know if I should be the spokesperson to for this career." And I said, "So I do it for the love of the game," which is like, "That's awesome. I don't think they're gonna care." I'm like, "All right." So like multiple times I mentioned this. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody involved knew. Because like you had to fill out an application, submit it, and basically say, "Hey, this is kind of what I do," and give the whole explanation. So multiple times I said, "I do not make any money doing this. I love it. I'm super passionate about it. And we've done it for a while, but I gave them the whole thing. They didn't seem to care. So it is
Okay.
weird when you roll in there and they have everybody meet, and it's like a whole, I don't know how many schools do this, but like it was a whole day for careers. So you had three 40-minute sessions where you talked to three different groups of kids about, about podcasting for me. And so it was a really cool event that they do, a really good idea. And I guess this is like their third or fourth year doing it.
Mhm.
And it is a little bit weird though when you're walking in. And I'm basically wearing, a t-shirt, jeans. I'm just, I probably look like a really, really old student. You know what I mean? Like, who is this guy? Everybody else is coming like in three-piece suits, fancy shoes, glasses. I'm like, well, except for like the photographers, they were dressed like me. One guy was wearing like a Star Wars t-shirt. I'm like, all right, maybe I'm not too bad. But everybody else was like, oh, this is very different. And then when I was waiting in the library for them to kind of give us our little orientation, I was sitting like between military, Marine, like Army guys,
Mhm.
Marines, cops, firefighters. They're all in uniform. Like, well, I'm just the dork that's talking about podcasting. This will be fun. And but it was a lot. It was a lot of fun though. Like, had
Nice.
three good, really good groups of kids,
Nice.
and it was interesting. Now, obviously, this, and it was funny because as they prepared us, they're like, "Hey, these are high schoolers, so some are going to be really engaged, and others are not, and this is what we deal with every day." And I'm like, "That's the
This
one
is what
nice."
we do every day.
That's what they said. I'm like, "All right," and that's the nice thing about me being married to a teacher, having a sister who's a teacher, obviously co-hosting this podcast with you. You're a teacher. Like, it's not like, and I've spoken to a lot of different groups of high school students. It's like this stuff's not shocking anymore. You know what I mean? It's like this is just how it goes, and you got to do it for the kids who are really engaged. But it was cool. There was a lot of kids that were really engaged. with it. And yeah, it was a lot of fun having conversations and talking about podcasting. And
Nice.
yeah, it was a cool thing hearing what their podcast would be about and thinking like, man, these kids are going to do better than ours for sure.
Really?
Yeah,
You have all these ideas.
all these ideas. And you just, I mean, as we've talked about before, just the generational thing, they're
Yeah.
way better at the social media and stuff than we
Yeah.
are, and
Yeah.
they're just used to it more. In fact, it was
Yeah.
funny, and I always enjoy doing this. Anytime I've done this, like sometimes this stuff will happen, and I this is like the thing that brings me so much joy when I speak to those classes. There's usually some kid that's already talking trash about me before the I even start speaking, which is fine, and it happens every time. But what I do is they don't realize I'm listening, right? And I don't acknowledge what they say
You could
because
hear
it's
what they're saying.
100%, 100%. And so, but I bank it away in my head because I use it later. And so this one kid, the first class comes in and these kids are talking and you can tell some of them are just like, oh, I don't want to be here. And it's like, okay, that's fine. I get it. And then they're just kind of talking amongst each other as people are filing in. And there are these two kids off to the side. And one of the kids, I heard him say, like, he's basically like, what's this dude going to teach us? Like how to upload to Spotify? You know what I mean? I'm like, all right, I'm going to bank that away. And so, I'm like, I'm going to bring that up later.
Spotify.
And so I'm like, hey, when I started, I'm like, hey, I'm Josh Takimoto. I'm a podcaster, da da da. And I said, I just want to start off by letting you guys know I'm gonna be really honest with you about what I do and how we do it. And I said, we don't make any money, but I'm super passionate about it. And I said, also, I want to make it very clear. I said, so I heard someone over here say, oh, I bet he's just gonna teach us how to upload to Spotify. And the kid's like,
He's like,
I said, who said it? And his buddy just sold him out. He's like, it was me. And he would look at me. I'm like, I said, dude, that was super funny. And I said, I can tell you this, I'm not going to do that because the bottom line is you guys probably know how to do that stuff way better than me. I said, I'm going to teach you the stuff that you may not know. I said, we're gonna have a good conversation. But the fun thing was like after that, he had like this massive smile. He laughed and he was engaged the entire time.
oh, good.
So it's my favorite thing to do because it happens every time somebody says something. It's like, I'm coming after you first, buddy. I'm not a teacher. So I bring the same podcasting mentality. It's like, you should hear what my co-host Deb goes through. I'm doing that to you, buddy. Same thing's going to happen. But again, it's fun though, because once I did that and he was engaged the entire time. He's like, all right, this dude's not too bad. So we had a fun time and it was cool. Hopefully we hear some podcasts come out of that and,
Nice.
they can do their
Very
thing.
cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's a fun experience.
That's good. That's really
Yeah.
funny. Glad you called that kid out, but you turned it into a thing where you weren't trying to embarrass him, even though that's what it seemed like. You turned into it like, look, you could probably do it better than me. But yeah, this generation, it's crazy. They know they were like born like out of the womb with like, scrolling through an iPhone, social media.
Right.
So they this is a generation definitely of like, I'm kind of nervous for our workforce in the future because all these kids are going to be podcasters and YouTubers and I'm like, who's going to work in the hospitals? Like,
Yeah. Well,
who's going to teach? I don't know that they are going to do that. They're just going to go game and make money gaming and all. It's crazy. So they're definitely technological based.
Yeah. It was definitely interesting having that conversation. And yeah, some really good questions too. I'm gonna take some notes. That's probably pretty good for me to think about for our own podcast.
Yeah, they're pretty good. So
the worst question was like, hey, how many downloads do you get? It's not important. I said,
you're like,
I said, hey man, I'm gonna let you know it's not that impressive. I said it's we're still building. I said we're growing though. That's the main thing. We are growing. So anyways, that was just a side note. I wanted to mention that. Shout out to BV, everybody who put that awesome event on. Shout out to Aiden. I don't know if you're listening, man, but he started following Connectable after he heard the podcast, or started following me after he heard the podcast. So if you're listening, shout out to you, man. Good luck with everything. But yeah. Awesome. So anyways, that was just a side note. So Deb, what are we going to be talking about today? Because this is actually your idea. So
well, yeah. I like how a few hours ago, my idea, which is how it always goes.
I wasn't going to bring that up, but
well, it's honestly not something that I'm personally experiencing right now. It's just something that I've been reading about a lot. Again, people are podcasting about it. People are just talking about it, and it's a newer term. So it's called quiet quitting. And I had to explain it to someone earlier today, or earlier this week. And then my coworker and I were talking about it. And it has to do with burnout, because that was the first thing I was going to ask, say like, well, what have we talked about burnout before? I know we've talked about stress, mental health, I'm into all those topics and talking about just, what our society is currently experiencing, I guess. But the term quiet quitting, that's a new one. I honestly didn't know what that was, or I didn't know it was a thing, or I guess it's a trend, like a word, a trend. I didn't know it was a word until, of course, my favorite, girl podcast is Girls Gotta Eat. And
Mm-hmm.
that was one of their topics, is quiet quitting. And I thought they were just, I'm like, I just saw the word quitting and I'm like, okay. And so I'm listening to it and I thought they were just making up that term, but no, it's a trend. Like people are doing it. It's labeled as something that people do. And so anyway, so I thought it was interesting, but so I thought it would be something that we could talk about. And then you said earlier that you had listened to some podcasts and people are talking about it there too. And it's weird because there are pros and cons. There's two sides to them. I have opinions on both sides as well. And it's just something I thought that we could just chit chat about really quick. So
Yeah, absolutely. No,
yeah.
you mentioned that, and I had not, like you said, just a few hours ago, you had mentioned that as a potential topic, and I'm like, yeah, it sounds interesting. I just don't know. It's interesting when you just hear the phrase, when you hear the
Yeah.
word, it's interesting. I'm like, that's interesting. I don't know what that means or what that could
Right.
mean, but I'm curious. And
Right.
then I said, hey, I'm down to do it, but I just don't know anything about it. And then you sent me an article, and then from there, I just listened to some short snippets of different podcasts. So
Yeah.
like if you or not Google, if you look into like Apple Podcasts and you type quiet quitting,
Yeah.
a bunch of stuff pops up. And so I listened to a couple episodes. One, I'm not gonna name the podcast. Her podcast sucked. I'm just gonna say that. Like she
At
came off
first
from
I was like, it's not Girls Gotta Eat, is it? And
no,
you're like,
they're great. They're
no, no,
great. This one was different. And this girl was annoying, and I'm like, I don't even know why people would listen to you about any topic because you seem like a horrible human being. But so
tell me how
um,
you really feel.
I'm
About
holding back a little bit, but she just sucked.
yeah.
So that's all I want to say about that one. But yeah, I listened to another one just briefly, and that was I forgot they had someone that kind of deals with workplace structure, development, things like that. So obviously that's something that they're dealing with very very currently. And then I listened to another podcast called Battle Ready with one of my favorite speakers, Erwin McManus, and because he talked about work and stress and burnout and stuff like that. I just wanted to get some different opinions, and yeah, it is very interesting, this concept. But do you want to
Yep. Let me explain.
explain what it is real quick? Because you're right. I think based on the
Yeah.
three podcast, I'll say this: two were specifically about quiet quitting. The other one had to do with more burnout. So the two that were about quiet quitting specifically they did have a little bit of a different definition and a different take on it. So I'm just curious, like what you would say the definition is of that.
Okay. Um, so, and I'm reading off the article I sent you just because I don't know how else to explain it, but they say it well in this
Sure.
article. And I just simply put it, quiet quitting is all about doing exactly what your job requires, no more, no less. All the, not going above and beyond and not going the extra
Sure.
mile. Because a lot of people are experiencing burnout. They would like to be, either compensated or, receive accolades or whatever for going above and beyond what the actual job requirement is. And it has many things to do with the pandemic. People are struggling, inflation. There's just a lot happening right now. But so even when I sent you that article, I read it first and then I sent it to you like, okay, yeah, this is a good explanation of it. But when I first listened to it on one of the my Girls Gotta Eat podcast that I listened to, they didn't explain it that way. And I mean, I guess they did, but they were more so, and these girls are my age roughly, so they weren't understanding why people are I guess quiet quitting or doing this trend. They were and they weren't like bagging on it or anything. They understand people are burned out and are tired, but they're like, we don't understand it because like, why wouldn't you want to do a good job at your job? Why would you want to back down and kind of, at first I thought it meant like people were not quitting, but slowly doing less and less and less of even what their job requirement was, almost like in protest. That's just how when I was listening, that's how I read it as. And I'm like, what? Why would you do that? But then I'm, reading this article, that term makes more sense if that's exactly what it is. So I don't know if there's like an exact definition or if that's accurate. You can tell me your thoughts too, after I give my spiel of what, how you read it and your podcast that you listen to and what you think about it. But so with burnout, and it has to do with burnout. And that's why when I told you burnout, and then I thought of like, oh, quiet quitting. Okay, yes, let's talk about both. Because with I guess with burnout comes quiet quitting. And I get it because I just started doing this a few years ago. I started putting up boundaries with my job. I do, and I work in education, so I can't speak to anyone who works in a corporation or a business or anything else. I just know education. That's it. So for example, I don't check my work emails once I leave school. I used to have my work emails like on my email app. So it would like notify me as soon as I got an email, and I would check it. And it would either be from a parent or a student or whatever, my district, whatever. And I would start, and I'm at home or out with my friends. And all of a sudden I'm thinking about work stuff and I'm responding to emails and responding to parents. And no one really gave me, crap about it. But one day I remember receiving a really angry email from a parent, and it just totally ruined my entire night. And I remember being like, no more. I will deal with this when I'm on the clock. Like I am off work. And for me, it just became a point of, I need to set a boundary for myself. I am not going to check emails after my contract hours anymore, unless sometimes my coworkers and my department chair will be like, oh my God, did you see the email? Check it now. Like, it's almost like, juicy email. So I'll go on and if we get an email from our district about something great. But anyway, so I kind of set up that boundary for myself. And I don't see that as quiet quitting at all. For me, I just see it as I'm going to go home and not take work home with me, because I need to have a balance. And for me, that is work-life balance. So in the article I sent you, that's how I read it as doing just like exactly your job requirement. And, but then I'm like, okay, when I quit my assistant athletic director position last year, and now I'm thinking, I was like, was that a form of me quietly quitting? Because it's a lot of work for very little pay, very little, almost working for free type deal. And for me, it was, I wanted to stay involved in athletics since I wasn't coaching softball anymore. But then after a while, it's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of games to supervise. It is a lot of work for, and don't get me wrong, coaches in public schools, at least in California that I know of, don't get paid. We get paid like $1 an hour. We don't get paid enough. And so, anyway, so me backing out from that. So now I'm thinking, I'm like, was that me quietly quitting? Because I just was kind of done going above and beyond for that, not getting compensated, fairly, because I am a hard worker and I've always relied on multiple incomes, just because it's, been just me for a long time. So, anyway, that set aside, now I have a second job. So I'm doing other things outside of school hours. But so I'm like, well, maybe that was me quiet quitting. So now I'm like, so it's hard. I go back and forth between why wouldn't you want to do the best that you can do at your job? And then I go back and look at my contract hours from, 8:30 to 3:45. Those are my work hours. And I'm like, no, I am, because during my work hours, I don't feel like I'm quietly quitting. I don't feel like I'm kind of sleeking back and doing the bare minimum. I take pride in my job, because I work with kids. Like, I feel like it's my job and I want to be the best teacher that I can be so that they can get the best education, so I can manage my class well. I want to give them the best lesson plans that I can give them. I want to give them a good experience. It's PE. High school kids hate PE. Most of them do. Yeah. So for me, I guess my way, if I were to say, if I was quietly quitting, I'm working as hard as I can during my contract hours, but then after contract hours, I want to be mentally off the clock so that I can have my energy back for the next day to do it again. So anyway, that's just my, long drawn out way of um, just taking my personal experiences into quietly quitting. But what I got from that article was people not wanting to do, like it said, job description and not wanting to go above and beyond and doing extra things. And then the article also stated, it was interesting. I don't know if you read the whole thing, but like the article also said that while it's healthy to maintain boundaries at your job and have a work-life balance, it mentioned how if you, I guess, if you only do just your job requirement or a little less or whatever, it's not going to, like, you're going to end up not enjoying your work. And that in the long run, that's not an enjoyable life anyway. And then, of course, whatever corporation you work for or whatever business it is or whatever your job title is, that could also suffer because you're not putting forth your best energy. So I have conflicting, so I agree with that as well. I'm like, okay, if I don't have passion in what I do, and I'm quietly quitting and only doing just the job requirement, then am I really going to live a meaningful life? Right.
Right.
Um, but I also don't want to, I'm not going to kill myself for my job. And I
Yeah.
discovered that a few years ago. Just because that can also lead to burnout. So I guess people are responding to burnout by quietly quitting and
Mm-hmm.
doing just their requirement, I guess, or maybe a little less. And so I have conflicting thoughts. I think that you do need to have a work-life balance and set boundaries, but I don't know that it's a great idea to do only the job requirement. But I don't know. I don't know what it's like to work for any, like I said, anywhere outside of education. So I don't know what that means for others in big corporations or businesses or the health field or hospitals or whatever, if they're not getting compensated enough. Because I do believe in compensation as well. Times are tough, inflation. I do think you need to be compensated for your time. You're a professional, and if you are getting paid for what you do and you're going to do more, they need to pay you for that. So I'm a big believer in that as well. So anyway, that's just my big bubble of thoughts around quiet quitting, I guess.
Yeah.
So
That was good.
yeah.
Um, yeah. What I was just gonna say, I feel like going back to what you said about the AD thing, because technically the assistant AD thing was a separate thing, right? It wasn't part of
Yeah.
your job. So I mean,
Right.
and I don't say this to be funny, but like that was actually you made a decision to quit when you
Yes.
said no more to that. So I don't think that's quietly quitting at all, because
Right.
that was separate from, it wasn't like they were asking you to do that on top of your PE job, right? Like that was technically considered another, even though you weren't paid very much, it was considered a
Right. It's
separate
not what I
job.
was hired for to work there for. It was, yeah, it was extra.
It was extra. So, if you would have kept doing it and then just did the bare, whatever the bare minimum of what that would be, which I have a tough time imagining how you could pull that off and do the bare minimum in that specific job.
Right.
Because it's so unpredictable.
That's true.
That I don't know if there is a minimum that you can do as an AD or an assistant AD, right? It's like the job's too fluid for
Right.
there like to be a standard, like I'm just gonna do the bare minimum. It's like I don't know if there's such thing. So
Right.
there's that's part of it too. But like, no, I think you did the thing. You did the thing. I remember talking to you a little bit about that. And I don't know everything that went into that decision.
Yeah.
Just a couple of things that you shared, but I remember you saying part of the reason that it was kind of like, if you can't do it with, if your heart's not truly in it,
Right.
then you're not going to do it. And
Right.
so to me, that's just making a wise decision, as
Mhm.
far as, you could have just coasted the whole time and just continued to collect the small paycheck that they gave you just to get the money. But you said, no, it's not worth it for myself. It's not worth it for the people that I'm serving in this position. So you just didn't do it.
Right.
So, I mean, for me, it's like, I just respect that, because you made that decision
Yeah.
where you could have quietly quit, which I think, and again, I think in that, for me, and maybe I'm just because I'm biased towards sports,
Mhm.
I think quietly quitting in a position like that, or as
Mhm.
a teacher,
Mhm.
is unfair to a lot of people. And
Right.
again, I'm not a teacher, but I've, like I told you, you're a teacher, married to one, my sister's one. And I just feel like that job, because like you said, you're impacting the lives of kids.
Right.
And I think, just my personal opinion, and I hope no teachers get offended, and you can tell me you're the teacher if this is offensive, I apologize. But I say it to you because I know you don't do this. If you quietly quit as a teacher, you should
Ugh.
just quit being a teacher. I
Yeah.
mean, that might sound harsh. That you're like, well, you're not a teacher. It doesn't matter though that I'm not a teacher, because the bottom line is what I do know as a non-teacher is that your job is incredibly important, and your
Hmm.
job is to help young people become better. And so,
Hmm.
if you want to quietly quit that job, just quit. It's
Hmm.
better for everybody. It's better for the kids that you're teaching. It's better for you as an individual because you won't be stressed out and you won't be burnt out. But like the idea of quietly quitting in a job like that makes no sense to me,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And that might sound harsh to somebody. And again, people may think like, you have no clue, Josh. Yeah, I might not know specifically, but I can tell you this. Like I said, I have a ton of respect for teachers. You can't do that. You can't do that. Like you said, the
Right.
boundaries is different. Not
Yeah.
checking the emails on the weekends, not doing, the stuff after work. But like, Deb, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If as a PE teacher, if you had a young kid come up to you, say it just for the sake of this conversation, say it was someone that's a little bit overweight, not in the best shape, and they're like, Miss McCollum, I need some help getting in better shape. Are you gonna tell her or him? It's like, well, make sure you show up to my class and listen to my lesson. I know you. There's no way you're gonna do that.
I'll be like, that's outside of my contract hours, so I can't help you.
Right, right. You know what I'm saying? There's and maybe I don't know you. We've known each other for 4 years. Maybe my view of you is much higher than it should be. There is I would bet my life that
Mm.
you would not tell that you would give that kid so much help. You I guarantee you would build them a workout plan.
I'd be like, get a piece of paper and a pencil out. You ready? Or get your phone out, take some notes. Here we go. Where
Tell
we're
me,
gonna.
am I wrong?
I would tell that kid everything short, shy of like nutrition. I would just say I'm not a nutritionist, but here, here you go. And I'm not a pediatrician, nor like, but here you go. This is what you need to do. Of course, like that
Right.
is that's why that's that's why I do what I do, and
Because you
that's why
care. You're passionate about it.
that's what I'm saying. Like looking back, like how I made that comment of, oh, okay, I think I quietly quit the AD job, but yeah, you're right. No, I just quit. But with teaching within my contract hours, I can't imagine quietly quitting that because I'm just like, okay, so quietly quitting a teaching job just to me means you show up, you take attendance, you slap a lesson plan on, however you do that, and then you just let them work, and that's it. And I'm just like, there's no way, like, at least for me in my position of teaching physical education, like, there's no way. So,
Because you guys want, I mean, I can just tell in the conversations we've had, like you care
mhm,
whether they listen to you or not. And we've talked about this a lot. Like there's a point where the stuff you say now may hit the kid right away. And then
mhm,
the stuff you say right now may hit a kid later down in life. It's like, oh man, I remember when Miss McCollum used to say this or that. And now they're trying to implement that into a healthier living lifestyle.
yeah,
But, you know, the reason you do it is because you're passionate about seeing kids become better. You want to see kids become healthier and have a better sense of well-being. And
yeah,
if you didn't, you'd be a horrible PE teacher. It's like, what are you doing? Like, why would you do this? Because it's too
yeah,
much. And you know this. It's like with coaching. Like you and I used to say this all the time about coaches on Character Combine. To put in the hours and the effort, the blood, sweat, and tears that you do as a coach or a teacher, the job is way too hard
yeah,
to do it for the amount of pay that you guys get if you're
mhm,
not passionate and you guys don't truly care. And I'm not saying like again, what I'm not saying is that you have to kill yourself to make
right,
that happen. I believe there's a way to do it. Like, and it sounds like you found it. Like you found a balance
mhm,
between living life and giving your very best to the students when you're with them. And I think there's a way to do it. So anyways, I just wanted to address that because there's so many great teachers that I think understand that balance. And I
yeah,
said, and I get there's other stuff to it, like you know, different things that go into it. And it's not as easy as just for some people, it's not as easy as just saying, okay, I've been teaching for 15 years. I'm just going to quit. Like, I understand that, but like, I would really challenge some people. Like, if you really are hating your teaching job that much, like, who's benefiting from it? You know what I mean?
yeah. It's I could make I could make some jokes right now about OnlyFans, but yeah, if people wanted to just make money and not teach, you could do something else.
Hey, well, you know what's funny? We put, yeah. Well,
No,
yeah,
it's
I've been posting a lot more videos on our YouTube shorts or our YouTube page and like doing the shorts, which are basically like the same thing we post on Reels.
Mhm,
But yeah, that was one of the posts I put out there recently was from the episode with Travis and Melissa Cole. And she
mhm,
was mentioning how, people every once in a while, people will slide into her DMs for pictures of her feet. So
Oh yeah,
There
once
you
a
guys
day.
go. If you guys
Money
got nice feet, you guys
plays.
might be able to make some more money doing that.
Extra income of your
Yeah.
feet. No, but no, yeah, you're like, and that's why I say I only speak to education because that's all I know.
Yeah.
There, I think there's a difference between doing what your job requires, like only what your job requires, and setting a boundary.
Hmm.
Um, in terms with that. So I definitely, and I'm trying to imagine if I only did my job, like my contractual job requirements, which are taking attendance every day. We are legally required to do that.
Right.
I'm required to upload grades like every week or 2 weeks or something to that effect. I'm required to turn grades in. I'm required to give a lesson plan. That's it. There is, you know what I'm saying? There is no like, I can't imagine just doing that because then I take out my personality with my kids, then I take out building relationships with my kids, and then I take out actually having fun with my kids and teaching them meaningful life. I take out all of that. And I can't imagine actually then why I would not enjoy my job. I would not enjoy myself. I don't know. So I don't know that. And this is where I'm understanding where the podcast I listened to with Girls Gotta Eat, they were talking about like, why would you quietly quit? Like, why? Again, I don't think you should kill yourself and lose your sense of just insanity for a job, right? Like, there needs to be a balance. So, I don't, some people think that maybe you need to do that. And if you don't kill yourself, that's quietly quitting. So I don't know, people have different opinions about that. But I think that yeah, if you just do the bare minimum, there's a huge difference between that and then up here, like killing yourself for your job. Like there is a balance that you can strike. So if
Yeah.
quietly quitting is only doing the bare minimum and just the job requirement and nothing else, I'm like, then maybe you need to find something else you want to do because you should. I would hate to only want to just do the bare minimum,
Hmm.
right? And so I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I have a ton of thoughts. I have so many thoughts.
You sure you do.
Um, so I'm a little fired up today too. So trying I'm trying not to bring that into this too much. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, I know. I think one of the things that kind of popped in my head when you first sent that article to me and I started listening to some of these podcasts, my first thought is I don't. I think for some people, we're giving the general public a lot of credit when it comes to like when you said, because I don't believe you should kill yourself for your job either. I think some people, and even I think some people in their minds truly believe that they are, and I would
Mhm.
question their work ethic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because
it's all subjective for sure.
right, and I'm like, okay, I think that's where I have a little bit of a tough time with the
Yeah.
idea of this because I think for some people it's a legit thing. I can see it, and yeah, if you're doing the best you can within your job requirement and you don't feel like doing any extra or going further, like cool, you're fulfilling your requirement, and I can't argue with that. I'm not going to judge you for that. There's some people that probably hear this idea of quiet quitting and think that's an incredible idea. I need to do that because I'm doing too much. And anybody who's working with them is like, you haven't done too much for a very, very long time. Like at what point did you think you were getting burnt out? Because your work ethic sucks. And so, and like you said, that might be subjective. People can tell though, right?
Mhm.
It's like again, going back to you as a PE teacher, you can tell who's trying to put the effort into their mile and who's not putting any effort into their mile. So it may be subjective, but at the same time, we can tell. And so when it comes to this idea of quiet quitting, my concern is for some people, I'm like, I feel like some people are going to hear that and their self-awareness is horrible. And they're
Mhm.
like, oh, I'm definitely burnt out and I've been working so hard. Really? I think our idea of working hard is very different, very different. And so I'm concerned that you think that you're burnt out by what you're doing. And maybe it's just you don't like your job. Maybe you're not happy with, and that's the other thing I heard somebody say too. Sometimes you just wonder, like, do you think for some people, and again, I'm a little more fired up today. If this comes off judgmental, I apologize to anybody. But
No, you don't. Just kidding.
the fact is, it depends on what I say. I believe in what I'm saying, but if you don't like how,
Okay.
how it's said, I apologize. But do you, yeah, it's just weird. Like we wonder if someone was not happy with their work situation, and maybe they're just not happy in general. Do you think that this idea of them quietly quitting is going to necessarily make their life better? Because I heard someone say that it's like maybe part of the reason why you hate your job is because in general, you're not very happy with your life. And so
Yeah.
even if you took a bunch of time off work, even if you quietly quit and scaled back what you think you're killing yourself for,
Mhm.
I'm not convinced it's actually going to make us happier. I think it's going to, you know what I'm saying? I think for some people, they're going to still deal with the same problems. They may still have some of they might still be depressed. They might still be struggling with a lot of other things. And even minimizing the workload at work and doing the bare minimum for what their job requires, I'm not convinced it's gonna help them as much as they think sometimes. Because I think sometimes, you know, us hating our jobs is really a product of us not being really that happy in life.
Mhm.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. I just think that I don't think it'll help with your passion in life just because, we're all, most of us at least, are wondering like, why am I here on this earth? Like, what am I doing here? Like,
Hmm.
what am I supposed to be doing? And I think that just not knowing your purpose, walking around every day is a really sad thing. And
Hmm.
that's different for everybody. And I mean, and not everyone has to work. Like some people are like stay at home dads or stay at home moms with children. And like, that's their purpose in life and cool. Like I have some friends that are like that. But in terms of like, if you're not doing, if you're like in the workforce or something, you need to do something that you're passionate about, whether you're paid for it or not. And to slowly back away from that, um, without making a change in career or a change in a hobby or a change in something, it is a really sad thing,
Hmm.
you know. And again, I can only speak on education. Like one way that and I do go back and forth sometimes with that quiet quitting. So I'm like, okay, I kind of get the job requirement thing and setting a boundary, like I said, and that's probably
Sure.
maybe that's not what it is at all. Then my thoughts about setting a boundary, maybe that's not quiet quitting and it's just setting a boundary
Well,
because
so I'm just going to interrupt you real quick. Like I think that's kind of what I'm saying. Like I think some people don't. I would imagine there's some people that have like a diluted idea
mhm.
of what it's supposed to look like, and all of it, rather than quietly quitting, they could set better boundaries.
Yeah, no, right, exactly. Like so in the education world, I mean, I'm I'm very like I know what my contractual obligations are for my job requirements and for my salary schedule and everything in terms of after school meetings and anything that has to do outside of my contract hours. I know weekly what I'm required to do. And obviously I'll do it like meetings and stuff. Like that's part of our contract. That's part of da da da. But sometimes in the education world, and if you follow any, which I do all the time, if you follow any teacher like Instagrams or memes or TikToks, they're always say how teachers are expected to do their job plus some, just because there's like after school committees, there are clubs,
Right.
sport, there are things that there's literally no money for, you don't get paid for at all. It's just something that some schools, some districts, I don't know, are like putting pressure on teachers to help out more
Sure.
and do
Right.
this more and do this more. So anyway, that's in terms of all that. I'm a firm believer, and if you want to do it, do it. And if you have time and that's your passion, do it, but don't feel like you have to. Like I'm at the point in my life where, sorry, like if I'm not getting paid for it, like, and if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it.
Sure.
Um, I like, for example, I last year, I'm not doing it this year, just because, not because I don't want to, but because of time. Like our schedule has changed. I just don't know when I can fit it in the school count this day in the school. But last year, I was in charge of a weight training club on campus
Sure.
once a week, whatever, for an hour before school. Kids would go in and lift, and I supervise them and help them, and that's it. I didn't get paid for that, but I wanted to do it because I'm like, this is important. Kids have asked me to be the advisor. Heck yes. I'm not doing it this year because our schedule has changed, and I feel so bad, but it just doesn't work with my schedule, so I can't do it. So something like that is like, I don't mind doing that, but if it's something that I'm not going to get compensated for and I'm asked to do it and I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it because it falls into the whole category of if my heart's not in it, and these are kids, like they're going to know. and they're going to know that I don't want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not, I'm not there to crush souls, to crush little kids' souls. So anyway, so in the education world, that's what I think of when I think of quiet quitting, of like teachers not having to be required to do more than what we are paid to do if they don't want to do it. But anyway, that being said, within our hours of teaching and contractual time, I can't imagine quietly quitting. Like I don't, there's no way I could do just the job requirement that is in my or less physical contract. There's no way. So I don't know about other corporations, but I do think there is a huge difference between quietly quitting and setting a boundary with your work
Right.
to find balance.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think it depends. Like you said, I think this is probably we've probably implied this multiple times, but I think it does depend on the job. Depends on
Right.
what the requirements are. Like I said, I'm not gonna I'm gonna say it one last time. Just as a teacher, I think it's a very different thing. I think there's still a way to
Yeah.
very clearly set boundaries and protect your personal time and protect your mind and your health and all that stuff. There's definitely a way to do that, but like you said, to quietly quit on the because that's what you're doing. You're quietly quitting on the kids. Um,
Right.
you can dress it
Yeah.
up however you want, but the bottom
Right.
line is you teach because you're teaching young people, and if you're quitting, you're basically quitting on young people. And so, fair or unfair, that's just how. Like if I can imagine as a parent, if I saw that, it'd be like, oh, this is not the teacher I want. Like I don't want my kid to have this teacher because I can tell they don't care. And so I
Yeah.
can only imagine what it's like during school hours. Like, you know, and thinking back, I know some teachers that were incredible, amazing teachers. And I know some teachers that I had incredible lives outside of school hours, but gave everything they had during the regular hours. And they had a huge impact on every person they came in contact with because they understood that. So a lot of it is, I think, understanding the difference between the two, um, the boundaries and quietly quitting.
Yeah.
Um, and something that I think is important to realize too. And if this is something that I'm not quite understanding, or maybe you can provide some clarity if you don't agree with this. Um, I think with anything that we do in life, good or bad, I'm a firm believer that there are pros and cons, there are sacrifices, there are consequences to anything that we do, right? So if we're talking about the quietly quitting thing, and if we're talking about it in the parameters of you're doing exactly what you're required to do, that's fine. The is you're not stressing yourself out, you're not getting burnt out, you're eliminating all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to also understand that other people may not have that same mentality. And so if you're trying to get promoted within your company, they
Right.
may not look at you as a prime candidate because they see five other people that
Right.
are willing to do more and go above and beyond. So, in my opinion, you can't sit there and complain
Yeah.
if you're in that position because you've made that choice to quietly quit. So, the pro is that you aren't stressed out. The con is you're probably going to be stuck there as long as you stay with that company
Mm-hmm.
because you're not showing yourself, you're not standing out in any way. You're just doing the bare minimum. You know what I'm saying? It's like, all right, cool. You can have a really nice job. You can contribute to whatever that organization or that company is. But for your own personal self, if at some point you're like, man, I would like to make some more money, you might be limiting yourself if you have that mentality. At some point, if you want to go to a higher level, you are probably going to have to push yourself maybe
Mm-hmm.
a little bit beyond what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Depending on the situation, but I think you're going to stand out that way. You're not going to stand out if you're doing just the bare minimum. Even if you're doing a good job, you're probably not going to stand out amongst the other candidates. Now, on the flip side of that, if you are someone that's more of a go-getter that wants to climb the ladder and try to get promotions and reach higher levels within the company, you know, you're going to have you're going to stand out more from a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people, especially if you're with a bunch of people that are quietly quitting around you. You are going to stand out. But again, if we're talking about sacrifices and pros and cons, you're going to have to hustle a lot more, and it's going to require more time, more effort, and you may get stressed and burnt out. But that's kind of what it may require to get to that point.
Yeah.
And so I think, that's one of those things where you kind of have to, balance the two. And I think, I don't know why, I just over the last couple of years, I've always felt that, this idea of sacrifice, like I think you're always sacrificing something. It may be big, it may be small, depending on what you're choosing to do. But I think you do have to understand that because I've seen so many people like, well, why is this happening? Well, you made the choice early on to do A. and you
Mhm.
knew B was an option, but you knew if you chose A, it was going to come with a bunch of different sacrifices. And so, I hopefully people understand that, because I think that would be for me, it'd just be a silly thing. It's like so you wanted to quietly quit and you expected to get promoted, or you
Right.
expected people to notice your work. It's probably not going to happen,
Right.
because like you haven't done anything to stand out, which is fine. There's no judgment. It probably sounds judgmental. It's not meant to be judgmental. It's just saying, like, it's the reality of the situation. You made that choice, which is great for the current moment. But looking ahead in the future, if you want to gain any traction within that company, it's probably not
Mhm.
going to happen, because you were just someone there,
Yeah.
which is
That
fine.
Yeah, that was my thought though too when I was like, that's why I kept saying I just know the education world, because I was gonna comment and say like I don't know what it's like to work for anything else, a corporation or a business. I've only been a teacher, and before that I worked at a bookstore, I was a softball coach, or I was a babysitter before, like like
Yeah.
when I was younger. So I don't know, but in my head I'm like, don't you, like, you're not going to go anywhere in that business
Right.
or that company or at that job, whatever it is,
Right.
in my opinion. And cool. And if you're cool with that and you're cool with staying there, then go on with your bad self with however you need to do to stay
Sure.
there. I
Sure.
guess, you know,
Yeah.
if you, like you said, if you want to gain traction or, make more money or get promoted or whatever the case, there's no way you can do that with quietly quitting. So, but
Right.
then again, you want to stay there and you're like, I'm chilling. I don't need more money. I'm cool. I don't want to get promoted.
Yeah.
Then I guess what's to stop you from just doing the job requirement? Like you said, no judgment. And we're not here
Yeah.
to plug.
Yeah.
We're not here to judge. I have not
Yeah.
podcasted for
Yeah.
that
Check out
podcast
her other podcast.
that I
Um,
haven't done in a while. But but it's not, you're not gonna, don't don't be shocked if you don't gain traction within that business or company or wherever, whoever you're working for.
Right. Because yeah, that's exactly it. And I'm just, again, like you said, this whole idea is I do things the way I do things, and the way I choose to live my life, and the way I choose to move forward with my work ethic. I know
Mhm.
you do. You have a specific way that you choose to do things and find that balance in your work ethic. And
Yeah.
other people, they may have their own, and they may want to quietly quit. But I feel like for me, what sums it up is, if you choose to quietly quit, you're entitled to do so.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what that says to me is that you are willing to accept a ceiling for what your potential is.
Right.
And that may be unfair to say, and you may be cool with it. That's okay. I'm fine with that. But like, you are saying, okay, I'm cool with this being my ceiling. I don't want to break through that ceiling to see what else I'm capable of.
Mhm.
I'm cool with settling right here, because I feel like this is what's fair and this is what's right. And I'm cool with being right here for the rest of my life. And if you're entitled to, if you want to do that, you're entitled to do so. For me personally, I cannot imagine a life where I'm just settled and I'm like, I'm going to stay right here. I
Mhm.
just can't imagine doing that. Now, again, to each their own, but like, to say, like, yeah, I'm cool with accepting the ceiling. This is my standard right here. There's no way. Like, I had a quote the other day. It's like, you want to set the standard, and once you hit that, raise
Mhm.
it up again, because
Yeah.
you're obviously capable. I mean, you know this from all your years of training. Like,
Mhm.
you have this idea of what you're capable of when you're lifting, and then you
Mhm.
get to that point. It's like, man, I'm stronger than I thought I was. What if we
Yeah.
push it a little? What if we add a little bit more weight? What if we add more reps?
Yeah.
What if we try to reduce the mile time, or the your sprint times? It starts to get your mind thinking, like, maybe I am capable of more. Maybe I can achieve more. And I think you can still have that mentality without burning yourself out. But I think what you said earlier is a big thing. I think it comes out of passion.
Mhm.
If you're trying to push yourself and push and push and push and grind and hustle in something that you're not passionate about, well, of course it's going to burn you out, because in the back of your mind, you're constantly thinking, I do not want to do this.
Right.
Of
Yeah.
course, that's going to
Right.
burn you out. If you're doing something you're passionate about, let me tell you this right now. This is not meant to be a brag, nothing like that. But like, not once have I ever been burnt out doing this podcast. I've never been burnt out doing the recording. I hate editing. I've never been burnt out editing. I've never been burnt out doing the
Bless your
social media
soul for
stuff.
editing. Oh my God.
It's not
This is
that bad. I mean,
hard.
I even told the kids at Career Day, it's like, I chop the front and the end and adjust the volume. It's nothing crazy. But it was still like, you're putting stuff together, putting the videos together. Not once have I been burnt out where I'm like, I'm just done podcasting. I can tell you this, at this moment, I can never imagine it happening. That's because I'm incredibly passionate about this. I love doing this. I love having conversations. I love
Mhm.
putting this out there and then getting the feedback from people, good or bad. which we did get some, I did get one bad feedback from someone on YouTube the other day. I'll have to share with you in a
Okay.
second, but it's just like, I can't imagine it. And I think when you're passionate about something,
Yeah.
like I don't know. I've personally never really experienced burnout, but I'm a psychopath with certain things. Like I have a problem. I understand that about myself. So I understand that like my threshold for burnout is probably way higher than other people. And so I'm
Mm.
not here to judge, your what level you can burn out. Some people, I do question the work ethic. Like I said, you seem incredibly lazy, and everybody sees it except for you. But that's just me. Whatever you
I
think about
question
yourself,
I question a lot of my students' worth ethic every day. So it's okay.
yeah.
I
And it's like they're like, well,
feel like
it's
I'm trying. I'm like, you are? Like
interesting. Interesting. Yeah.
that's as fast as you can run. You're joking. Like I'm so
Yeah.
rude.
I think
Like
you put like a couple of snakes on the track, then we'll see who can run faster. You know what I
I
mean?
see you run faster to go catch up with your friends than where you're
Yeah.
running right now. I know you can run faster.
You should
Just
like
try
hide like a
better.
$100 bill on the track somewhere and just tell them it's like, hey, there's a hundred somewhere. Go find it. I bet they would fly.
Oh, for sure. For
Little
days.
Johnny is like, hey, have you considered running on the track team? Because you are flying right now.
The right motivation.
Exactly. So, that's my thing. Like, I do think the passion thing is a big part of it. And, again, I know this stuff's easier said than done, but if you truly hate your job so much where you're like, I'm just going to quietly quit, maybe it would be worth considering actually quitting and finding something that would be better. Maybe you're working a 9 to 5 that you can't stand, and you're like, maybe, and there's no disrespect to this job, but like maybe you would rather work at like Dutch Bros or Starbucks, and you would find more fulfillment out of that. It may be different weird hours, it may be less pay, but you might get more fulfillment out of that. So why don't you go do that? And then it opens up for a spot for someone who is actually passionate about the thing that you're doing, and so you can make room
Right.
for what they're doing. And so
Right.
I've been talking for a little while here, but the
No.
one other thing I wanted to say to kind of piggyback off something that you said, and again, it goes into this idea of passion. And I heard someone said this. I heard someone say this, and I feel like this applies to where I'm at in life right now. Sometimes you're doing a job because it provides the finances that you need to pay bills, to feed your family, and also to fuel and fund the thing you're truly passionate about. So it's literally a means to an end. And it doesn't have to be the thing that you're passionate about, but you do have to accept, okay, I'm doing this because this is allowing me to do the thing that I love. And so, like, I'm not going to say where I work, but the place I work, like, I'm not going to say what I do. I'm not passionate about it. It's an incredible job. I have great coworkers. I have a great boss. It's a great situation. And I've been like really blessed with where I'm working. But I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie to our audience and say that this is the thing I'm passionate about, and I would do this for the rest of my life. No, like what I'm passionate about is my family, spending time with them. Well, guess what? This job allows me to do that financially. It allows me to pay for stuff and do fun stuff with my family and feed them and pay bills. And we don't have to stress about that stuff because of this job that I'm not passionate about, but it allows me to hang out with people that I love. Right.
Yeah.
This job that I'm not passionate about is a 9 to 5 job, and it allows me to podcast and edit podcasts and have my weekends free. So again, I can do this thing that I love called podcasting. And so
Yeah.
I've accepted the fact like, hey, you know what? I'm not passionate about it, but it is a great job. It's a great situation. And so I'm going to do my very best because I'm just so grateful for it. And I also understand that it allows me to do the thing that I'm truly passionate about. So even sometimes when we're not passionate about the job that we have,
Yeah.
it might be a great thing that's allowing us to do the thing that we are truly passionate about if we're not able to do the thing we're passionate about full time. Right. And so I think that's a good way for me to look at it. And, I heard someone say that if it's like you're living in the attic, right? And you're like, man, I don't want to be in this attic. It's dusty, it's dirty, it's dark. Like I want to be somewhere else. I want to be in the main house. But while you're up there, you can still appreciate everything that the attic has to offer while also trying to achieve something better. I mean,
Yeah.
too many times we're like, I just want to get somewhere else. I want to get somewhere else. And we're not really appreciating where we're at.
Yeah.
But like, I think that there's a place where you can appreciate what you have while also at the same time trying to achieve more. So
Yeah.
that's my soapbox rant.
That was well said. You dropped the mic right there.
Thank you.
That was good. No, I mean, no, that was great. And those are my thoughts on quiet quitting. And, like the more, and I haven't had a full blown conversation with anyone about it until now.
Sorry, I'm your
So
first one.
everybody. Yeah, no. I've just had
not Josh.
it's yeah, no. That's why I'm like, oh, this is great. I haven't really talked about it. I have
Sure,
thoughts about it. So when I talk about things, my mind literally will change as I'm talking because that's how I process things, right?
sure.
So now I know the difference between within this conversation, I know the difference between quiet quitting and setting a boundary.
Right.
And I think it's important to know the difference between the two. And now I understand why on Girls Gotta Eat in the podcast, they're like, we don't understand quiet quitting. Like, why would you want to do that? So I get it now because that is not setting a boundary. Quiet quitting, like just the whole premise of what you're saying. And cool, if you want to quietly quit, go for it. It's not my life, it's your life. Anyone listening, like, we don't care. But it's
Yeah.
in terms of just for me personally, I might as well go find another job for me if I'm gonna quietly quit
Me too.
by the definition of what quiet quitting is and do
Yeah.
just a job requirement because I work with kids and I can't do that. So
We're on the same page, I think. I think we have
yeah,
the same mentality. And
yeah, I like it.
excuse me, I think, again, it's a very general thought. And hey, sometimes when I say these things, this is what I say. If this applies to you and this offends you, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you got to deal with it. And then if it doesn't apply to you, then you shouldn't get offended because it doesn't matter. But I think there's also a side of this too. And I know we've talked, and especially like you like talking about like the generational stuff. I don't think
Mhm.
this is even a generational thing. I think this is just depends on the person. Sometimes people are kind of just soft. And I think, I mean, I hate to say it, but like, I don't think you have to kill yourself. I don't even think you have to grind. For some people, they're just kind of like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed. Doing what? You don't do anything. What are you overwhelmed with? And
Yeah.
maybe you have other stuff going on that you're dealing with in life. I understand that. But as far as sometimes when it's like, I'm so stressed out, it's like, but you don't do anything here. So I'm not
Mhm.
sure what's really stressing you out unless it's something outside of the job. But like, there is a point where I'm like, I don't know. Again, I always go back to the sports thing. Like, that would be like, can you imagine like a professional athlete saying, you know, like, I am trying to achieve this really high level of performance, but I don't feel like squatting today. Oh,
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry. Well, then you're not going to make it. Like, and that's the thing too. Like, when I talk about the ceiling, it's like I really just believe that you're kind of limiting yourself and what you can truly achieve because, and again, probably because you do the training thing or you used to. I always go back to that, but like, it's gonna be. Can you imagine if you had an athlete that was just quietly quitting on you while you're trying to train them? It's like, what's the point of training? You're just, I mean,
So
you might as well, you're just going to plateau and stay at that plateau. You're not even get a chance to plateau, right? Because you're just going to be at this, you're not going to push yourself and you're not going to get any
yeah,
better or
yeah,
stronger and in better shape if you don't push yourself to a certain extent.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's just, it seems weird to me. And I think there's, for some people, not everybody, but I think for some people who want to quietly quit, I think it's a really appealing idea because it
Mhm.
justifies their laziness.
That's a great point. Well, because and I'm just thinking in my head, like, you know, the when you push yourself and challenge yourself and you work hard in whatever it is that you do, like we
Yeah.
don't anything,
Right.
that is how, and this is my favorite thing to talk about, and you probably know what I'm about to say, but that's how you evolve. And that's how
Have
you
you talked about that
change and
before?
get better. Just a couple times.
Oh, okay.
That's how, because why, unless you don't want to, I guess, unless your goal is to never get better and never change. And I don't know. I don't know anyone like that personally, but if that's your goal, then cool. You can turn this episode off right now. But like, if you want to change and you want to evolve and you want to grow and you want to do better and be better, you have to push yourself. And quietly quitting at anything is not going to allow you to do that.
Right.
It just,
That's what I was
you
saying. I
if you
think,
don't,
yeah.
yeah, you don't need to kill you don't need to kill yourself, but like if you don't push yourself and challenge if I didn't push myself through school and because I fell behind and to get in getting my bachelor's, what I'm talking about, and I had
Yeah.
to like hurry up and take what felt like a million units to try to catch up. If I didn't push myself to get my bachelor's, and if I didn't push myself to get my teaching credential, and if I didn't push myself to get my master's, I wouldn't be where I am right now, which is like on my salary schedule with all the years I've worked. And again, I'm not saying like, oh, money, 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 because come on, I'm a teacher. Like we're not exactly a
Sure.
million, but
Sure.
I'm able
Yeah.
to live the life that I enjoy and that I'm cool with because I pushed myself back
Right.
then.
Right.
And I'm looking back and I can't imagine. I'm like, oh my God, like what, just anyway, like I don't know what my life would be like. And so if you don't work hard now, you're not gonna change, and you're not gonna reap benefits for your future or for what you want to do. So, this probably goes without saying, but yeah, so you're not gonna get better or evolve if you don't push yourself. So if you're quietly quitting at your job, you should probably just get another job. Something that you're
100%. Yeah. Because at that point, you're settling for average, and you're
Mhm.
settling for just, status quo. And I think, well, and again, going into this idea of our podcast, Connectable, right? Connecting, I,
Yeah.
you're going to have a tough time connecting with people like when you're doing that. Like if you have that mindset, I just can't imagine. Like, I don't really want to be with people or around people that have that mentality.
Mhm.
Like, it's just like, like, why would I? Yeah, I mean, like, it's just like,
Yeah.
I can't relate to it. So I'm not going to just, there's nothing interesting in a conversation with that type of person, because it's just kind of like, well, you kind of just do your thing, you kind of float by, and good for you. Like I said, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But I'm not interested.
Yeah.
It's just so much better talking to people that are going to make you better and that are going to challenge and push you to be better.
Yep.
And again, because I kept hearing that idea. It's like, you don't have to kill yourself. You don't have to kill yourself. I'm like, who are these people? I know some people do, but like, I think we're giving people a lot of credit that we're like, oh yeah, everybody's doing that.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
think there's a very big difference. Like, I know people that have had true, and I'm sure you have had, that have had true health scares because
Hmm.
they pushed themselves so hard at their
Yeah.
job. That is,
Right.
that's a big thing. Or mentally, they are
Mental.
like so out of it where they're like, they're falling
Right.
asleep at the wheel. I mean,
Yeah.
there's crazy stuff like that. That is what I consider like you are killing yourself for this job. The person
Right.
who doesn't care is like, oh, I just don't like it. I'm like, you're not killing yourself. Let's calm down. Maybe try doing your job really, really well first, and then
Hmm.
see if you still want to quietly quit. But like, I think we need to exhaust some options before we quietly quit. And I think, like we had talked about just over the course of this entire podcast, I think you need to look at yourself and ask yourself, why do I want to quietly quit? Why am I wanting to do this? Why is this idea appealing to me? Like I said, is it simply because you're trying to justify your laziness? It's probably not a great excuse. Is it because you don't know how to set good boundaries? There's an easy fix. Talk to Deb, because Deb's really good at it. And I don't just say that because you're on the podcast, but like over the course of these 4 or 5 years that I've known you, you've brought that up multiple times, and you seem to do, unless you're lying about it, but you seem to do a really good job of setting those boundaries as
Yeah.
far as what's work, what's school. Even you've even said this with friends of yours in your own personal life, right? Like, people want to go out, and even though you go out a ton and you guys do a ton of fun stuff, there's been times you're like, I can't do it. I need to just shut it down for a little bit and just be alone, or whatever, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah.
um so I feel like you've always done a really good job of that. So if anybody knows how to do it, you guys should listen to Deb, because she seems to be really good at it. I don't
Yeah.
know if you want any other advice from Deb, but at least how to set boundaries. She seems to be pretty good at that. um but what I mean, and even we've joked on this podcast, and
Yeah.
you text me and said I can make a ton of jokes. I don't even feel like it tonight. I'm not even gonna do it.
I was gonna say you have not made fun of me once. Yeah. This
It's
is a
been pretty good. Like I said, I came in this podcast fired up tonight. So um
yeah.
yeah, but no, like, we've even done that too. And I've told you, as much as we
Yeah.
joke about it and everything like that, as far as I told you, and like, you've never quietly quit on this podcast. You've always been really good about saying like, hey, this is what I can do, this is what I can't do. I can't record this night, I can't be here this night. um and I've tried to
Mhm.
do the same, like, just to let you know, like, hey, like, we're in this thing together, but I would rather have you take breaks as necessary
Yeah.
than like lose you as a podcast host forever, because like a year down the road, you're like, I hate Josh, I hate this podcast, I hate the microphone, I hate
I hate that.
everything.
I don't even have a microphone anymore.
I hate Spotify, Apple Podcasts, like, I hate it all. Like, I would rather have you take the breaks when you find them necessary, so that you continue podcasting, because I enjoy these conversations, versus like, no, we got to keep going, Deb, no, you can't miss this one, you can't, I need you here. And then you're just like, I'm done, like,
Like, peace out, fool. You're not listening to me.
yeah.
Peace out.
And then you go on another podcast and talk trash about this podcast, like I did about the other girls' podcast. Um, so, but what I mean? Like, I think like we try to avoid that here, because obviously this is not a paid thing. So once you turn the microphone on, you start talking, you and I start talking, you are already doing above and beyond what you need to do.
That's why when I said quietly quitting, I sent Josh a text saying, let's talk about burnout and quiet quitting. And I was like, right away, I was like, we could probably make multiple jokes about how I'm absent on this podcast a lot with burnout and quiet quitting. But no, you're right. I skip episodes if I need to, or take time off if I need to, so that I don't burn out, so that I don't, I guess, quietly quit or whatever, because I do need breaks from time to time. As
Right.
well, because you and I talking, I don't even consider this, I know you're like, oh, we don't get paid, but I don't even consider it an obligation or a job. Like, it's
Right.
something that I enjoy doing, like a conversation. So I treat it as a friendship of sorts. So that's why,
Sure.
like how you just said, like, oh, you need a break from your friends sometimes. And so sometimes, and I treat it as that. I'm like, I'm
Sure.
just so mentally, like, I can't even, I'm not going to give a good conversation tonight. Nope, I need to skip.
Right.
And it keeps me fueled for the next one. So
Right.
I,
Well, and I'll
yeah,
say, yeah, and I'll say this too, and this may sound weird, but I think part of the reason why I've never ever had a problem with like saying, yeah, like, hey, if you need to take a break, go for it. If you're like, hey, is it cool if I miss? Because I know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I misunderstand who you are, but in our throughout our conversations, I know that if I said, hey, like I know you want to take a night off, but like I could really use you here for this episode, and if you were free, I know you would do it, even though you're like, I hate him, I hate him, I hate him. That he asked me and begged me to be on this episode. Like I know you would do it, and so I'm like, because I know that, I'm like, I have no problem with you missing stuff, because
me and my seltzers will gladly show up.
maybe two seltzers,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's gonna be a rough one. Gotta get through this somehow. Um, anyways, yeah, we've been recording for a little while now.
Yeah. This
So
was a good one.
is there anything else that you have to say? I'm gonna pull up this thing that I got on YouTube while we wrap this thing
Well,
up.
yeah, we'll do
Um,
that. And I feel bad because I hate when I refer to things and I don't give them credit. So the article I was referring to is called Quiet Quitting, the latest workplace trend to combat burnout. And I mean, I just Googled it, but I guess it's off a website called Qualtrics, Qualtrics.
okay, that's quite the
And it's
name.
by Benjamin Granger, and it was published September 16th. So just, a month ago. So anyway, that's why I just wanted to give credit for the article that we read, because I think they did a good job explaining it and giving examples, and they gave data. I was going to say data.
Either way, right?
That's my bedtime. Which one is it? Data or data?
Let's
Data.
see. I would say, oh, I don't know. I feel like I use both of them, to be honest with you.
Anyway, there's percentages in there about the workforce and blah blah blah. So I just wanted to give that article credit.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we get out of here and wrap this thing up, so like I said, I've gotten some different tips from Daniel Thomas and a guy named Lucas Still, who was on my home team Sacramento podcast. He's a former baseball player here in Sacramento. They were giving me some tips on just social media stuff. So I've been trying to increase how many reels we post. I've been trying to increase, which Deb came up with a super funny one that we posted the other day. You guys will have to check that out. But we've been trying to increase all of that stuff, and then I've been posting a lot more on YouTube. And I don't know how familiar you are with YouTube, Deb, but they have like their version of Reels or TikTok, right? And they're called Shorts. And I basically just take the same clips that I've posted on Instagram and post it to these YouTube Shorts. And we've gotten some really good traction on some of these videos. Like one for us, we don't get a ton of views, but like for a couple of them, we got like 1.6 thousand, 1.7 thousand views. So, oh, that's a lot for us on here. Where prior to that, it was like 30, 40 maybe. And so, we started getting some traction and got some more subscribers. And so what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll post old clips from previous episodes to our shorts, just to kind of, consistently put stuff out there and, use what we've already done. So one of the clips that I posted, I forgot what you and I were talking about. I forgot which episode it was, but it was just an episode you and I did. And you started talking and sharing a little bit about some of your thoughts on dating and how, and I'm just gonna say, like, so just to paraphrase it, you basically were talking about how you believe that dates are a great way to learn how to communicate with others, and that you going on multiple dates or dates. I don't think you said frequently, but like going on dates regularly is a great way to learn how to communicate with people, learn how to communicate effectively with people. And then also is a great way to learn more about yourself, what you like, what you don't like, what you put up with, what you won't put up with, all of this. It was very simple. There was nothing controversial about it, I thought. And then some moron decides to comment and he said, and who pays, all caps, for all of your dates? The man? How F convenient for you. F off. Like, what? Didn't have anything to do with the clips. It wasn't like Deb was saying, hey,
This
I
is
go on with so
great.
many dates with so many men and I just love it. It's like, at what point did you get all this? It wasn't like, and you even said you don't believe in serial dating. This guy looks like he could have been an extra on like Storage Wars. Like it's not the most credible source. This guy looks like an idiot. But I read that. I'm like, my goodness, what are we doing?
Oh my God.
Any thoughts?
That you've made it when you have a hater already.
I
This is
know.
amazing. Well, whoever posted that is obviously really salty. Maybe they've gone on a lot of dates and have only paid and then gotten a no callback or text back or whatever. But I watch a lot of TikToks, of course, in the dating world. And there are salty guys out there who talk about like, oh, it's just a free meal for your girls. And there are girls who joke about it, and there are probably girls who do it for the food. I don't know. So, in a generalization, that poor person or guy or whoever posted that probably salty about something to that effect.
Based
But
on those pictures, a lot you could be salty about. I'll be honest.
but so poor guy. I feel so bad. I hope they find a date soon, and that is
That's
it. I
huh?
did.
Man, I've always said Deb's so much nicer than. I hope this dude doesn't find anybody. He needs to
uh
find a counselor
they're
and
so sad
figure
about
some
that.
stuff out because
I,
like, why would you take the time to comment this?
you
And
know
just
what's
so you,
funny?
just so you know, I was not censoring myself when I said it. He just put F. It's like, how
Oh,
F convenient for you? F
God.
off. Like, why we went all the way in and then you just stopped at just censoring yourself? Why? Just say
Salty.
it.
Here's the funny part is that I mean, I don't know statistically speaking, but I want to say about 50-50, maybe, or maybe 40-60, me being 40 and the guy being 60%. I actually split the bill on the first date, or I've actually paid the whole bill on the first date. What do you effing think about that? Whoever
Boom.
commented on that. Like, I have literally gone out with guys who didn't, I take my card out and they do nothing. And I'm like, all right. And in the back of my head, I'm like, well, this is over, but here you go. I'm going to pay for it. Like, I don't even expect,
Like they order dessert too.
I
It's like, oh wait a minute, I was gonna order one more thing. I didn't realize you were paying.
Well, listen, on the first date, beer, dinner, whatever the hell it is, we could be splitting a freaking chocolate bar. Like whatever it is, I always offer. Always. I always get my card out. I always get my money out. They will either be very insistent and be like, no, 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 it's on me. Or they will say, or we'll do 50-50, or I freaking paid the whole thing. So anyway, I just needed to clear that up. But that
Yeah.
person's salty about
Pipe
the
down, bro.
the whining and dining thing. And I mean, whatever. It's 2022. Anybody can pay whatever. It's whatever your preference is. But yeah. But I don't know.
I I,
That's
I hope this guy finds someone, Deb. This guy needs to find himself before he finds any other human
maybe
being.
I've gone out on a date with him and haven't called him back and he's salty about it now. Who knows?
Maybe
He's
maybe
mad about he's
that
mad
seems
about
to be a theme on our YouTube
life.
page. Yeah, different guy, by the way. It's not the same man that claimed he went on a date with you and was too big.
He wasted that comment on the wrong girl. I feel so bad.
He wasted that comment on the wrong guy. I'm like, this.
The wrong guy on you.
Yeah, I'm like, what? Not responding to this nonsense.
Oh well,
Yeah,
you can't make
and
everyone happy.
no, and like I said, this guy, and I think you're also very generous, assuming this guy's been on a lot of dates. You know, that's very kind of you. But
I'm so glad we're ending the episode on that note. It's
yeah.
amazing.
So yeah, man, pipe down, dude. Pipe down.
Calm down. Calm down.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
How convenient for you.
Yeah,
Actually,
this guy, honestly, he looks like he pays in like arcade tokens. You know what I
okay.
mean? It's like how much, how many beers will this buy? Like, are those Dave and Buster's tokens? What are you doing? That's what he
Sure.
looks like to me.
I'm sure he'll be commenting on this episode too. So
He probably doesn't listen because we have a gold digging whore on this podcast.
cue the gold digger song.
Yeah, I like that song. I like Kanye. Anyways,
God. Okay. Well,
I shouldn't have said that. Anyways, here we go.
don't edit that out. You better
No,
leave that.
I'm not going to edit that out. It takes too much time.
Oh man, I
All
love
right.
it.
All
Okay.
right.
Robert, you
Anyways, that was fun. All right. Deb, where can they
yeah.
follow us on social media, including TikTok?
Yeah. Including TikTok. Oh yeah, TikTok. Okay, hang on. Let's do this. Okay, hang on. Instagram at Connectable Podcast, Twitter at Connectable Pod, YouTube, and I'm sorry because TikTok is our newest thing. What are we just at Connectable Podcast
I
on
think it's the
TikTok?
same thing. Yep.
Connectable Podcast. Okay, on TikTok. On the TikTok. Keep a
Yeah.
lookout.
Follow us on all those things. Just so you know, we post the same thing on every single one of them. So you're not going to find anything new. But if you prefer one over the other, then, dive in, help us out. And please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And then if you could leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, that would be awesome. We've been stuck at like 20 something for a little while. So if we could get to that 30 mark, that'd be awesome. That would make me very happy. If we can go higher than that, that'd be even better. So, and keep an eye out next week for the Halloween episode. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah, that's all I can say right now. I haven't thought too much more beyond that, but it's gonna be fun. So,
Yeah.
all right, Deb, have a good rest of your week, and
You
we
too.
will talk to you guys later. See you.
Peace.
Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you like it, share it, and hit the subscribe button to get a new episode every week. We'll see you next time on the Connectable Podcast.